Welcome to the Riff. Today on the Riff, Jeremy and Justin sit down and talk about legacy. Everyone is creating a legacy and have been impacted by the legacy of others. Jeremy also gives homework at the end of the episode. I loved homework in school, so I'm tempted to jump to the end, but I won't. I'm a true Riff listener and will listen to every minute on normal speed. No 2x speed for me. I'm not an animal. We hope today is helpful. Thanks for listening.
Welcome, Riff listeners. Great to have you with us today. We're sitting here in a studio recording Riff, and the world just seems right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I do have one thing that's a little bit odd.
What is it?
And it's been, I should have fixed it this morning. I've got a little mustache hair.
Do you?
Yeah, that's curling right here on the edge of my mouth.
Yeah.
And it tickles.
On a podcast day. That's rough. You had a canker sore last week.
I did.
Yeah.
I only shared that with you, but that's fine. If you
No,
want to share it with everybody.
honestly, I believe in prayer, and
Thank you.
we want to enlist the army.
Yeah, and I can
So-
drink Sprite with the best of them now. It is.
Really, it's going well.
Yeah, it's going
Okay.
really well. Yeah.
Typically,
Thanks for asking.
it's kind of like you're welcome.
Thanks.
Kind of sometimes what I found is they come back in a fury. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, not every one of you knows Justin, but if you do see him, check in with him. Ask how he's doing, how much acid, and the tomatoes. I know carry a lot. Citrus carries a lot, so just be careful. So yeah. But hey, welcome to this episode. Today I want to talk about legacy. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited about this. I've been thinking a lot about legacy. I've been reading some things on legacy, and I thought next time I have an opportunity, I want to talk about legacy. And you know what this is?
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
It
So
is.
you know what we're going to do?
I think we're going to talk about legacy.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
Oh my goodness,
So,
I can't wait.
Yeah.
And what's great is we had a previous podcast on kind of mentorship and what that looks like.
Yep.
Right. So I think this is a natural kind of jumping point from that.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, you could package this in a part 1, part 2. We didn't, but
No.
what a treat. Like
Yeah,
a
that'd
little,
be great.
that's what they call an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
But we're also going to give some homework.
Oh.
So homework day as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little about legacy. I want everyone out there to think about who's been impactful in their own journey, who they're impacting, and then we'll have some homework. So
Awesome.
that's it. So
are you going to give the homework now or later? Because I'm nervous. I always get nervous when the teacher is like, "Hey, there's going to be homework." I always want to know, what is it? All right, so are you going to
because here's what I know about homework. People love homework so much. Once I give the homework, they're going to turn off this episode and they're going to start doing the homework. And so I'm like, guys, I know you want to get to the homework portion of this. So hold on, you got to listen to all of it for context.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Legacy. So here, let's start with this. So here's one definition of legacy. So for today's purposes, is legacy is not the collection of things you do, but it's the compilation of people who are able to do things after your impact on their life, right? And there's a great book by Mark Batterson that was kind of triggering in my mind. It's like, please, thank you, and something else. There's 3 words. That's the title of it. It's I don't remember, but Mark Batterson's got a brand new book. And in it, he talks about legacy and talking about the power of words, but the thank you. He's talking about the thank you portion, and I haven't gotten to the last part of the book. Otherwise, I would know what that third word is.
Goodbye?
No.
No?
I think it's live, love, laugh.
Oh,
So, yep. So, as he's talking about thank you, and Mark, by the way, if you're listening, I love what you're writing
He's
so
listening.
far. Of course
Yes,
he is.
he is.
But he's talking about, have we taken the time to thank our mentors? So I want to talk about legacy. So let me start with this. So take us back to yesteryear Glenn family. And I know you come from a circus.
Royal family.
Carnival.
It's not it's a circus family.
Okay. And again, I know that we talk about this, not every episode, but most of
every
them.
Every other.
So the big difference between circus and carnival, besides
Big.
one's a portable, one's a set up, tear down?
Both of them are.
Okay.
Yeah. Both of them set up and tear down.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot more sequence in circuses.
Okay.
Yeah. It's cleaner.
And that's a good thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would one be like Vegas and one be Branson?
Ooh. One would be Vegas and the other like Atlantic City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one's the more? I've not been to Atlantic
I
City.
feel
I'm
like
assuming Vegas is fancier.
Vegas is going to be the circus.
Yeah. So like Vegas would be Celine Dion in the 90s.
Late 90s.
And Atlantic City would be Dionne Warwick in the 21st century.
That's exactly
Is that right?
man. Yeah.
Okay,
You're like,
so-
I think this is fun. And this was cool at one time, I think.
So which one were you a part of, the Atlantic City or Vegas?
Vegas.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
that's circus.
Oh, yeah.
Circus.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the circus, so I don't know. Did you go to like real school or were you always traveling?
No, I didn't travel with the circus. It's just my family owns it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So you had people that did that.
Right.
Okay, I got you. Okay, so think about young Justin and then grown up Justin. So as I talk about mentors, people who ended up having a lasting impact on you, are there a couple people? Are there a couple names? Are there a couple roles that come to your mind? Who impacted you? Who's had a legacy in you and now through you, and how?
That's a great question. And it's interesting because when I think back on that, it all looks different.
Okay.
Right? I don't know if this is where you're going, but this is where in my mind, I am. I have people that I can look back on with like a very long track record of consistency and training and teaching and how it meant so much to me and for me. But I can also think back to like almost even moments, like where people weren't with me for a year and it wasn't like this mentorship, but it was a moment, right?
Okay.
Where it was like, oh, I think they believe in me. And it only took a day, right? Like it only took like a moment. So like the longevity one, I think of my dad, like he really,
Old Robbie Glenn.
old Robbie Glenn, right? Like, yeah, he is a hustler. Like he will not stop, right? So you would think having a dad like that's just like tiring because he's just always like more. Let's go.
And you were only child.
Only
so
child.
a lot of time with Robbie.
A lot of time. Yeah, only child. But there was never a moment I felt like I wasn't enough, right? And I always felt like he believed in me. Same with my mom too.
Okay, how did that happen? Like why do you say that? Because that's rare.
I don't know.
Most people that's not their description of their parents.
And what's crazy is I grew up always wanting to like impress or please my parents too. But I never felt like it was from a lack of like they wanted it. I was just like, man, they believe in me so much. I'm gonna freaking show them. Like there's like this like. So I don't know. I don't know how they did that. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I don't know. But I did. I had that kind of an upbringing to where I felt like I've got people on my side and in my corner. I still do, right? I still feel like they're there. But it was definitely a longevity and peace. I mean, 18 years, right? So that was my childhood.
You're only 18 years. Oh,
that was my,
like back growing up. Okay, gotcha.
Did you do the same thing? You go 0 to 18 as your childhood?
No, I was thinking you were saying you're 18 now, and I was like, I think I've known you for most of your life then. That's crazy.
But then I can also think of moments where it would be in a work situation or where it would be in a family situation where one person, I think of my grandma, where she would have like these moments in my life, right? I had a really crazy experience when I was 18 years old that was like completely life altering. And I stayed in bed for a week. I wouldn't get out. And my grandma was like, I think 4'1". She was tiny, right? Like little, tiny, maybe 70 pounds. I don't know. She could fit in my pocket. She was.
Have
really
you ever
small.
weighed her?
I never weighed her, just with my eyes. And I thought 70.
I do that all the time.
And she was so sweet and so meek. And she was the only one that would come into my bedroom. She came in my bedroom after a week and just sat down. And I remember she just said, "Get up." And everybody else was like, just lay here, just stay, whatever you need. Do you need pizza? Do you need anything? She was the only one. She was like, "Get up." I was like, "What?" She was like, "Get up." Like, "Get up now." So then I sat up and she was like, "You're meant for more than this. So get out of bed now." And then walked out. I got out of bed. So there's pieces to it where I will always remember that moment though. And anytime I'm like down, I'm going to cry. Anytime I'm down, I think of her words. I think of her words sitting there and saying, "Get up, like, get up." I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll get up. So yeah, well, alrighty.
Wow.
Yeah. So those are just two examples.
Yeah.
So I know those are family examples, but I've also had friends. I've also had colleagues and mentors and all that kind of stuff. I had a mentor in college that meant a lot to me. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, this might be toxic. I've had so many pieces.
What do you do? Let's peel that back a little bit, because all of us, one of the challenges of, okay, so you meant there's mentors that we know, there's mentors that we don't know. They can still impact us, right? I can read from them, I can hear them on podcasts or whatever it might be. But then when you get to know them, sometimes people have a fear of, man, if you aren't the person I really wanted you to be, will that ruin it? So you say you had a mentor, and there were some things that you wondered, man, I don't know that I want this. This might be toxic. What do you do with that when someone who's had a profound impact on you, but maybe you don't want to be like them? How have you been able to
I think that's
sift?
super difficult. And I think it was really important what you said. If you listen back to the podcast on spiritual trauma, of trying to separate the person and the process, or the person and what's going on, right? So the thing that was my mentor was doing and trying to teach me all had great intentions, but it was leading into a space to where it caused me to be very judgmental, very closed-minded, into a situation where I didn't want to continue to go. So I had to say, all right, I'm going to sever the relationship, because I don't want to go down that path. But what can I find out of that mentorship process that was good, right? I learned a lot of scripture during that season, like a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe not in a
Paint us a little picture. This is just the Justin shit. I'm just more fascinated in this. To paint us a picture of what was Justin like during this season. You were college age?
Yeah.
Okay, young adult.
Yeah, I was in college.
So it's one of those, what was that drive for you? Is a real reformed,
Super reformed.
What did that look like for you as far as your Christian walk?
I kicked my best friend out of the house. He's like a brother to me.
Because?
He was doing stuff I didn't agree with.
Okay.
It was a really great way to meet women, though, for me. Like, I met a lot of ladies. It was great.
How so?
He would invite them in.
Gotcha.
And I mean, just, there was drugs and all this kind of stuff that was getting brought into the house, and his college, right? Like, it's not, and I'm not saying like that's what you do, but I'm saying like, I had no like, I knew him like my brother. So I knew how he grew up and his vices and I knew everything about him. So why was I surprised when other things like this would happen, or I didn't agree with it now because I'm learning what Jesus wants, right? I should have actually been more understanding and more welcoming and loving to him, especially when he needed it. Yeah. Right? So that whole thing.
So what did judgment look like from you? Like, was there a series of trying to give passive?
Super passive.
Yeah.
Super shunning. Like literally signed a lease to another house and didn't tell him. That's how I kicked him out. So it's not like, you're out of here, you're no longer. It was like, hey man, we're moving out. He's like, yeah, where are we going? I'm like, oh yeah, you're not coming. We just signed a lease. Sorry. But you want to come over for lunch? Totally can. Like, what?
Yeah.
So it took, I don't know what that was, 15 years.
In your mind at the time, was it kind of like, hey, this is tough love and he's going to see my holiness through this? Or
100%.
Or was it? Yeah.
Yes. And that was through the mentorship thing that I had going on, right? I had this whole idea that I was learning that this is how you love people. This is how you take scripture and you apply it to life. This is how you set boundaries. And yeah, there needed to be boundaries set. And yeah, there needed to be love shown. But after that experience and kind of seeing what that did, and here's crazy, the fruit it produced wasn't then the fruit that the Bible was talking about. So then I'm like, wait, I thought I planted the right stuff, and then I grew something I wasn't expecting. So I'm like, this doesn't match up. So that's when I start like really digging into like, is this mentorship and is this relationship going to be helpful for me? I don't think it is. I don't think it is, right? But he formed me, right? Like there's a lot of pieces in me still that I look back and I'm like when you say thank you, there's pieces I kind of want to say thank you to him for. Yeah. But there's also a part of me where I'm like, hey, don't do that with any other college student. Right. Because that's messed up, man. That's messed up. But the other pieces were great. So yeah, I think there's great mentors, there's bad mentors, people in my mind that will have a legacy for me. I mean, it's going to be all over the place, right? Yeah. But I guess it's what shaped me. So what about you? Like, what is something in your life, people in your life that have done the same thing for you?
I would say similar in the sense of, I was an only child as well, except for my brother, and so he loves that joke.
That's a funny joke, man. That's a funny one.
No, my parents were phenomenal. So my first mentors, my first heroes were my parents. My first best friend was my mom. My first hero was my dad, going to Bat Boying for his church league softball games. And I mean, he's like Superman, right? And so in my mind, and very loving family, very Christ-centric family, and in a way where I always grew up. I've never had a season where I wasn't attracted to the message of Jesus because I've always had healthy leaders. Now, looking back, I probably wouldn't bring a friend to the church I went to, but there was some weird stuff. But I always had good pastors. I mean, they were great pastors. They were balanced. So I was around some weird stuff as well, but I had enough healthy, good leaders that it was fine, in the sense of for what I needed growing up. And so they were mentors. And even this week, I get an email from my dad that's, hey, I'm thinking about you. I read this devotional and I want to send it to you. Here's some thoughts, right? Here's how it applied to him. And he was thinking about me in this season. So there's nothing changed over the years. So my parents have shaped me greatly. But then there's a few people. One, there was a 6th grade teacher named Kevin Sartain, and he was a brand new teacher. And I went to a private school, not one of those nice ones like New Covenant, like where they had like gyms and sports. So we went to
What'd they have?
Nothing. Like it was rinky dink little, North Idaho, a suburb of Coeur d'Alene, crazy church that the school, and they would so it was the kind of, they didn't pay their teachers hardly anything compared to even the public schools. And so there were 2 types of teachers. There were teachers who got a job there because they were called there, and there were teachers who got a job there because they hadn't been called anywhere. And so they were just doing this until they can get
a great mixture, man.
It was. So it was bizarre. But I had a teacher who was right out of a Bible college from North Dakota. He moves to town, and I was in 6th grade, and he was one of those teachers that felt like, man, I'm here to just impact students. I want to do it in a Christian setting. Well, he was awesome. He'd always call me Smiley. And that's what he just called me. His nickname Smiley. And maybe looking back, he might have been making fun of me. So, but at the time, he really would see something in me, and I liked him. One, he represented Jesus in a way that I felt like, man, I'd like to be like that. 2, he was so encouraging, and I liked that. And it was actually during a season of my life where it wasn't always natural to smile. It was a rough season, and so he was a hero to me. Matter of fact, I've been locked out of Facebook for, I don't know, year and a half. Because I would give my updates on, my thoughts on masks and no, I'm just kidding. That's not why. So I don't know. Somehow I got locked out of Facebook. I'm not a Facebook guy. So if you're listening and you're like mad at me because I'm not responding to your messages on Facebook,
this is helpful.
I'll never know.
This is helpful.
So anyway, Leanne was on Facebook, and I was like, hey, let me check something on there. And I looked at something, a friend from school, and I saw that he had passed like 6 months before I had found this. So sometime this last year, Mr. Sartain died. I hadn't talked to him in 25 years. And something in me mourned. I'm like, he meant something to me because he shaped something inside of me, and he represented hope for me on a daily basis. And I don't know if he called me Smiley because he wanted me to smile again or whatever, or mocking me. But either way, he represented something. There were 2 others. One, it was I had a high school tennis coach. He was also my pastor at my church, and he was really good at tennis, and he was a really fun guy. His name was Daryl Johnson, and so he would spend time with me. I went to a small enough church. We had a ton of access, and the church, he was great. His family was super fun, and he represented something I liked. And then there was my senior year, we got a new basketball coach right out of college, and he was a high school Bible teacher. His name's Wes Davis. And he came in, and we had 12 kids in our youth group, and we had 200 within a year because he's like the Pied Piper. But I wasn't like a star student of his. I certainly wasn't a star basketball player. As a matter of fact, he kicked me out. He started a discipleship program, and he kicked me. Well, I quit it before he kicked me out.
That's right, man.
So because it seemed like way too intense. Yeah. It was like really into like you're gonna have to change your life and stuff. And I'm like, no. So I remember there was a time when I blew out my knee. I'm thinking, okay, I lost my tennis scholarship that I had. I was gonna go to an NAIA school in Idaho. And for me, looking back, it's kind of silly, but for me, that was like I was devastated because I'm like, this is my hope and future. And I remember he showed up with a Little Caesars Canadian bacon and pineapple pizza on my doorstep. I skipped school, and I was not a kid that skipped school. I was perfect attendance. I skipped school. He shows up. I was depressed. He shows up and says, Jeremy, I know it feels like your life's over because you lost your tennis scholarship. I just have a hunch that maybe it's just beginning. And he said it in a way that, I'm like, it almost looked like he believed that. So then when it came to college, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was a whole new world for me because I just know I'm not going to play tennis now. And I thought, I'm going to go to this Bible college, not because I want to be a pastor, is because these two guys represent Jesus really well. And they loved the school. They went there. So I thought, if I can love my family that way and a school can help me, impact me that way, I'm in. And somehow, I don't even remember changing my degree. I ended up with a ministry degree.
What was your degree?
It was business. I got a business scholarship to go to the school. I ended up getting, afterwards, it's kind of cool, I ended up getting a full ride business scholarship and for this thing after I decided to go there. And I must have changed. I did change it because my degree says church ministry, which is so awesome because that's like a degree in Candyland if I ever did something outside of church. But anyway, those two, Daryl Johnson and Wes Davis, are people that I see. Wes has now become a great friend, but he's a mentor. I mean, we do similar things in the sense that he's a pastor of a multi-site church and we get together often and think church, but he's a mentor. And Daryl Johnson just retired. And still loves, both of those guys still love Jesus, still love their family, make a great impact in their community. They're heroes of mine. A guy named Jim Bennett became a hero later in life. I worked for him. And he made me feel like I was the man when I was pretty confident I wasn't. He would say after the message, I would speak like a Sunday night on a holiday weekend. So when no one's there, it was a safe time to give me the mic. And I would preach way too long. I know that'd shock anyone who listens to us. And to like the 70 people gathered on a Sunday night. And he would just say afterwards, man, you are a preacher. He would say this very early on, you're my favorite preacher, you're my favorite preacher, you're my favorite preacher. And I know I wasn't that good. But he believed in me and he shaped me. And this last week, as we're recording this, Easter was just a couple days ago, he commented on Leanne's Facebook. Leanne posted something. He says, that's my favorite preacher. He's said that for 25 years now. And so there's people in my life. A lot of people influence me. But those people influenced me greatly.
So what about negative? Did you have negative pieces like that? And how did you walk through that?
For me, I've had, I definitely had challenges where I'm like, man, I've had a boss where it wasn't a win for me, man. Personality style, drive style, motivation style, perspective, where I'm like, this is not a fit. As a matter of fact, it was life draining for me. And so for me, I just compartmentalize it, say, hey, that's cool. I can learn a lot from this person in this category that, I'll learn those lessons. It doesn't make me less confident in who I am. It does because maybe they didn't encourage me. I don't walk away saying, man, maybe I don't have it. I'm like, well, we don't line up. That's fine. Learn what I need to learn, spit out the bones, right? And so if I've had a bad church experience, and I haven't had a ton of them. I've always had some great leaders. I've been like, well, it just makes me more motivated to do it better. If I've seen someone, like I had a great leader. It was a church of, man, it was right before I came here. It was a church of, 4,500 to 5,000, and now it's 0. They changed direction, they changed theology, they changed everything, and they shut her down. And just realized, man, God brought someone in my life for a season and for a reason. Like, okay, that person, that lead pastor, was a catalyst for my life. Learning leadership and strategy and a passion for communicating in a way that people understand. And even if they go a different direction from there, I don't toss out what they taught me, right? So, but I got a story about a mentor that I think is kind of a funny story.
I'm ready.
It's Craig Groeschel and Andy Stanley.
Okay.
And I've told you this story before, but so Craig Groeschel, Life Church, they're the ones that put the Bible on everybody's phone. Andy Stanley is our most successful North Point campus.
Has he called in a while? He stopped. I haven't seen him call.
He's kind of going rogue.
Are you serious?
Acts like their campus is all about their church and not, anyway. So North Point actually is a really big church in Atlanta, not connected. Though it is kind of funny. 2 funny stories. I don't know if they're funny. You be the judge of that. Just email us if it's funny. One time, someone who goes to North Point Springfield had given to North Point for a year, but to the wrong North Point. And at the end of the year, they got a giving statement from North Point Atlanta. And they called me. They're like, I thought I was giving, but our website obviously wasn't super clear back then. And so they didn't recognize that, man, your online speaker's a little bit better, right? Like all that kind of stuff. So they gave for a year. They get the giving statement, and so they call North Point Atlanta and they explain it to them. North Point Atlanta wrote them back a check so he can give it to North Point Springfield. So that's pretty funny. So crazy. I don't mean to get anybody fired at North Point Atlanta for doing that, but okay. So Andy Stanley, big hero in my life, mentor from a distance. Craig Groeschel, big. Have I told this on the podcast?
I don't think you told this on the podcast.
Okay, so Craig Groeschel, big hero in my life from a distance. Met him several times for the first time. He's awesome, and but he really is. He's like a hero. I've always said, man, I'd work for one of those guys anytime, man. If they said, you want to work for me? I'd be like, yeah, awesome. So there was a deal. Our whole staff goes to this conference, Catalyst Conference in Oklahoma, and so they had a lunch. You know where I'm going?
I'd love this.
We had a lunch breakout for senior pastors. And I'm like, okay, well, they're going to know we're kind of movers and shakers in this room because it's senior pastors with a Q&A with Craig and Andy. So there's like 500 people in this room. And so Leanne and I are at this lunch, and I'm like, I've got butterflies. I'm nervous because I'm like, I've got a window here to say something so impressive to Craig and Andy that they're going to probably offer me a job
on the spot.
And
on the spot,
as much as I love what I'm doing, I have to take it.
You got to listen to the call. You got to listen. Yeah.
So they're doing the lunch deal, and all of a sudden they're both up on the stage, and the facilitator says, "Okay, we're going to open up for Q&A." And immediately I raise my hand, and Leanne looks at me. She's like, "What are you doing? What are you going to ask?" And I'm like, "I don't even know. I don't know."
Which is a great plan, by the way.
Yeah. I've got to go through this open door. And she's just like, "Put your hand down." I'm like, no, get thee behind me, Satan. So I wait. They call on me. Again, lots of senior pastors. I want to ask a question that is such a leadership question that only a very good leader is going to understand. And I had been in a cohort once with Craig, and he had talked through this very specific deal on church finances. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask him about that, knowing that that's kind of a passion button for him. And it's kind of behind the scenes. And he'd be like, what great mind asked this question? I must hire him right now. And so I asked the question, and ready for him to, honestly, this is going to be awkward on the spot. I got to decide future. And he looks at me totally dumbfounded. I'm thinking he's like, wow. And he looks at me and he says, I have no idea what you just said. Then he looks to Andy. He says, Andy, do you understand what that guy's trying to say? What that guy is trying to say? Andy laughs and says, I have no clue what he meant. And everyone in the room looks at me and he says, can you try that one more time? And so I am scrambling. Leanne's scooching her chair away from me. I'm scrambling. I try and rephrase it. He looks at Andy. They both shrug. And they say, let's just go to the next question. So I still work at North Point. I didn't have to make a tough decision that day. And so anyway, those are two mentors, but,
they're
but
just
more from a distance.
More of a tough love.
Yeah. More from, and I don't see anytime soon where it's going to be less of a distance. But okay, homework assignment. Okay, all of us have mentors. All of us have people who have shaped us. We all are in a spot right now where we're shaping others. So one, let's be aware of if it's not about what we accomplish, it's about what others can accomplish because of the impact we've made to grow our fruit on someone else's tree. So the homework assignment is this. Take some time this week and have a very specific thank you to someone who shaped your life. So think back. Who's somebody who shaped your life that it's been a while since you've just verbalized to them? So either it's a handwritten note, which is kind of creepy, a text, a call, a quick voicemail, something that would say, hey, I just want you to know this happened. Be specific. You did this back then. And all these years later, man, I'm still thinking about it. I'm still impacted by it. Thank you for leaving a legacy in my life. Because I bet God will use that to encourage them. So let's be grateful people. Let's express our gratitude. And I believe as we're grateful for the leaders that have been shaping our lives, we'll probably even be more aware of our responsibility of shaping others. So, Justin, dude, thanks for sharing today.
Yeah, you too, man.
And thanks for listening, Riff listeners. And we'll come back.
Wait, also just wanted to apologize for any handwritten note I've ever given you. You said that was creepy?
Well, the thing is, you cut letters out of magazines.
I have poor handwriting.
I know, but it makes it look like a ransom note, dude.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So,
all right, I'll go emails.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
Hey, have a great Monday. Or whenever you listen to it.
Right.
But we'll see you next Monday, if that's when you listen to it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.